Well, if you've been paying attention to Tiana's Bayou adventure during the cast member and AP previews, you'll know that there's been some issues in this ride in terms of it's been down a lot. It's having a lot of issues staying open. And today we have an article from Blog Mickey that actually details how much has this ride been down and is it going to be ready to open? So I'm Jared with Capture the Magic, and let's get right into this video here. So again, this is from Blog Mickey. And the title of the article is Tiana's Bayou Adventure. How much downtime was there during pass holder previews? It says Tiana's Bayou Adventure has wrapped up the annual pass holder early preview phase of the attraction. And the story of the previews was just how much downtime the attraction experienced. It said in our multiple visits to Magic Kingdom, the attraction was often experiencing unexpected downtime to the tune of more than 4.5 hours per day. Now, I can also attest to this. My wife and my family, we went to do our AP preview here. Our son didn't want to ride it. He's 4. So my wife and the rest of the family, they rode it. And we did child swap. So they got to ride it. And then when I went on it, it went down. And that morning as well, we were like boarding group number 6. It didn't open. It was down then. It opened late. We didn't get, our boarding group wasn't called till closer to noon. I think it was like 11 something. And yeah, by the time I got on it, it shut down while we were on it. And it was down until, I think when I was to ride it was around noon or 1, and it was down until around 5 something. So even my experience, I didn't get to ride the whole thing. I think I rode about a third of it. So it's a very common occurrence with this. It says, in addition to the unexpected downtime, the attraction also didn't distribute enough boarding groups on occasion and too many boarding groups at other times. We didn't count early evening closures as downtime, although it's very possible that ride closed early on occasion due to downtime, and it wasn't able to operate again before the park closed, giving the appearance of an early closure. In total, if the ride isn't loading guests, says downtime or early closure, it should probably count against it, especially when Disney World distributes more boarding groups than are called, but we're being conservative with our math. And they go on, they have some actual data here. So here's a look at the day-by-day downtime that Tiana's Bayou Adventure experienced as Disney World tries to get ready for the opening day on June 28th. June 13th, for instance, it was down 7 hours and 10 minutes. June 14th, it was down 4.5 hours. On the 16th, 2 hours. 17th, 3 hours. 18th, 4, almost 5 hours. And on June 20th, 6 hours and 20 minutes. Now, that is basically daily. I mean, the longest one being for 7 hours, basically a whole day on June 13th. But every single day, you're basically down at the minimum of 2 hours, probably closer if we look at this to 4 hours each day. That's not good. So going forward, there are some cast member previews scheduled for Tiana's Bayou Adventure before it opens to the public. But according to cast members that we've spoken with at the attraction, it's possible that some of the upcoming cast member previews may be canceled as Disney World looks to try and implement some last-minute fixes before the ride opens to the public. So to be clear, this type of downtime is not normal at this stage of the game, especially considering that this is not a brand new ride. This is an existing attraction, as I like to call it. It's a theme over that didn't have these issues before, that is now having these issues now. It says there were weeks of testing with water dummies and Imagineers before cast member previews even began in early June. The ride is not, quote, new, although certain elements of it absolutely are. We suspect that there are some issues with ride sensors and show elements. Whatever it is, it's clearly not an easy or quick fix. So from what I have heard, and I don't claim to have inside sources, but what I've heard is there are sensors on this ride that they're trying. If you remember Splash Mountain, it just basically ran in a loop. And, you caught different parts of the scenes. What they're trying to do on this ride is use sensors to basically time it out with boats so that there's more consistent scenes. Like you're going to see the same thing every single time. And there's some issues with a sensor or all of the sensors that are causing this happen. And seemingly when this happens, like when we were on it, all of a sudden everything's fine. All of a sudden the lights all come on and all the animatronics just have this eerily kind of go dead. And then we had to be escorted off, which I know a lot of people think being escorted off is like kind of cool. You just see the backside, you see a bunch of dumpsters in the back. It's really not that cool, but it's interesting, at least I suppose. But yeah, so that apparently is the issue with this ride. As they go on to say, we hope that Disney World is able to implement a fix over the next week and have a smooth grand opening. At the press time, Disney World still says that they, quote, expect to open a standby queue soon after the attraction's opening, but that a virtual queue will be in place when the ride opens on June 28th. Disney World has never announced a date when the standby queue will become available, and it's probably for the best that they don't. So I think they'll do the virtual queue because if they do, if you remember, Rise of the Resistance had a lot of issues when it opened. When it still has issues, but it had a lot of issues, especially early on. And instead of if you have standby, you got to escort that entire standby queue out of that ride. Versus if you have the virtual queues, you just that group gets escorted out, but the other ones are just put on pause. So it's easier to evacuate a ride when you have the virtual queues going on versus just an entire standby. Now, in terms of this ride, are they going to get it fixed? I'm surprised they, I guess I give it to them of trying to time it out where it's a more consistent, what people see each time is more consistent. I'm not against that, but I would assume there's a B mode. I mean, most rides have a B mode where if this isn't working, it just defaults to just going into a cycle like they did on Splash Mountain. Apparently, that's not the case with this. You also would assume that they would get this kink worked out before they even get to this stage. Whereas of now, you're basically 7 days away from it opening, and there's are questions about is this going to open on the 28th? Because I'm sure from a guest standpoint and press standpoint, the last thing they would want to happen is this ride debuting and it's down all the time. It's one thing when it's down for cast members and annual pass holders. Those are more forgiving groups of people versus your general audience that's coming. So I guess we'll wait and see if they fix this, if they delay it. But it is not a good look and unfortunate. I'm glad my wife and the rest of the family got to ride it. But it's always a bummer when you get on a ride and it doesn't work and you get escorted off and you may not get to ride it the rest of the day. So we'll see if Disney fixes it. Hopefully they do, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's going to do it for this video. So if you like this video, please like it, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more Universal, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture news. And let us know in the comments, have you gotten to ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure? Did it work for you? And do you think that Disney's going to open this in time for the June 28th opening? So until next time, we will see you in the parks.